Hey, it's great to have you come by. I appreciate you being here. Today, I'm just going to use the 1/4-inch impact driver to remove the all-season tires from my wife's 2018 Subaru Forester. I finally got some snow that's sticking around here in Michigan, so I figured it's about time to get those winter tires on. It's actually kind of late in the season, actually. We usually are getting them on there sometime in November, and here it is already in the beginning of the year. I'm going to go ahead and get those changed, but I am going to use just the 1/4-inch driver. If we have any trouble with some of the lug nuts, I'll go ahead and use the 1/2 inch. I kind of like using the 1/4-inch driver once in a while just to see how it does. The wheels aren't as large as my Jeep wheels and tires, so the Subaru tires are smaller, and I kind of like just using the smaller driver. So let's go ahead and get this started. These are the Bridgestone Blizzaks, the wheels that are slightly smaller because I like a little more meat on the sidewall. Give me a smaller wheel and a bigger tire any day. You know, a lot of people will wonder about winter tires. Do you really need them? I find that they're just a great peace of mind. I think for the price, they're relatively inexpensive. They last a long time if you take them off and not leave them on all year round. Like some people will just leave them on and that's what wears them down because they've got a very soft rubber compound. So if you have temperatures over 40 degrees Fahrenheit, they'll wear pretty fast. Once the temperatures start getting regularly above 40 is when I take them off in the springtime. I put them back on once I know that we're getting some snow and ice here in Michigan on a consistent basis. These are already probably about 4 years old as I've had the car. You know, the treads still feel good. It's all nice and tacky still. It doesn't take up that much room here. I just have them stacked up in an area of the garage. To me, it's kind of a good peace of mind, especially when you know you do have to travel in some harsh weather conditions. When you got ice, there's not a lot you can do, and these really make a difference in icy conditions. I can't speak highly enough about them. When I use this 1/4-inch impact, I use these impact adapters. These are 1/4-inch to 3/8, 1/2 inch, and I think it's also just another 1/4-inch. But it's an adapter set that lets you take this small 1/4-inch and use it for the larger impact sockets. When I'm changing my all-season tires out for the winter tires, I go ahead and I put a label on each of the tires so I know what position they were in when I take them off. That way I can look at my maintenance records, and if it's time for a rotation of the all-season tires and the old mind has forgotten what position they were in, I'm going to have a label on them that tells me exactly where they're going. Wheel chocks, I'm a big fan of wheel chocks as well. Because I'm jacking up the rear with both wheels off the ground at the same time by putting the jack under the bottom of the rear differential, both front wheels will be chocked on the front and the rear of both tires, just to be doubly sure that there's no way it's going to slip forward when I have that rear end lifted up. Get them at Harbor Freight, those big beefy ones like that, just another peace of mind. That's where this Daytona long reach is really nice. Always amazes me how well that does. Those have been on there over a year. Now it's a good chance too to look at things, just looking at the thickness on the brake pads and scoring and all. So looking at brake lines and just the general appearance. There are the struts here, everything looking good, no leaks. Bushings, just kind of looking at them, make sure they don't look cracked or loose. All right. This is a thin-walled socket, so once I get these on there, I have to make sure I keep that in the glove box for the winter in case I ever need to change the tire out on the road. Because you don't want to be stuck without that, or else your regular This will adapt your tire wrench with your scissor jack for emergency purposes. This would allow you to still get these special lug nuts off that came with the winter tires. So I'll be sure I keep that in the glove box this winter. Also, these winter tires are directional. There's an arrow that says rotation in which way they should be going. So you always want to make sure they're oriented on the correct side of the vehicle to allow it to rotate in the direction of the arrow on the tire sidewall. I always like to make sure I sneak up on these all the way around in a star pattern, because they can get cockeyed if you don't do it right. You want to make sure the wheel is nicely centered and positioned as it should, flat against the hub. So you'll see how that adapts right in there. And I will torque these with a torque wrench, but for now I'm just going to put these on right now for this, just to get them snugged up in a star pattern. These are supposed to be at 89 foot-pounds, so I will set this to 89 foot-pounds. There's 80, 89. The other thing I like to make sure when I'm driving with this is that there is a setting of 1 through 3. Since this is an actual driver, not an impact wrench, it's an impact driver, it has settings 1, 2, and 3, which would set the depth of a screw that you're putting in. So for this case, I want it all the way to the 3. That would mean it's putting its maximum torque to screwing something in. When you're loosening it, it's always at maximum torque, and that switch doesn't have any impact. At least that's what I've found. So I'm just going to gently tune on each one, star pattern, before I finally take it home. And of course, we'll torque them by hand to make sure they're at 89 foot-pounds. I have the parking brake set, so that helps to hold the wheel from spinning. And I'm going to check the torque again after it's been driven a couple dozen miles. I'll go around to all of the lug nuts to make sure that they are still snugged up to the proper specification. All right, I'm going to lower it down now. I'm going to take these off. Let me see it roll a bit. We'll see here. A little bit. I usually put them diagonally opposite of the tire I'm jacking up. I'm on what I would think is a good subframe section, capable of holding the weight of the vehicle. I chocked the opposite rear wheel. I do feel like that 1/4 inch driver is perfect for these Subaru wheels and tires. I can't emphasize enough the importance of continuing to reseat that wheel and then sneak up on it. It's amazing how just when you think these are tightening up and you continue to get more turns out of them by hand. Just even though moments ago they were seemingly tight, but then you keep doing that, shifting it around, pushing it in, kind of wiggling a bit, and next thing you know it's flattening up against that hub even more. So it's very important to make sure these are seated before you reef down on these. I'm going to lower it down a bit till it just makes contact to hold the wheel enough so I can torque these on. Alright, one more down to go. I'm not a mechanic, I'm not a professional. I'm just hitting around with my knuckles, looking for what I think is robust steel and in an area that's reinforced enough to hold things the weight of the motor and the general body frame, the subframe, since these don't really have a frame, but they're reinforced parts. And I think I've found a couple spots, and I like it better than these pinch weld areas that's made for the scissor jack, because those are getting slightly bent over time, and this seems a little better, more secure, and I'm going to start using those from now on. Take a look. Right here, see, this is plastic, but this, you can see where the front suspension components are tied in to here. This is all, and there's a little bit of overlap here. You can see this is pretty reinforced. Otherwise, my spots are limited because you can't go up there. It's a lot of plastic. The engine, of course, you wouldn't want to put anything under there that's aluminum, and the oil pan and the transmission, the CVT, none of that you'd want to put any stress on. So this looks like my only option that's close enough to where the scissor jack would be for emergency tire replacement on the side of the road. So this is pretty close. Here's where the normal scissor jack would go on this pinch weld. You can see how it's kind of getting bent up as I've been using that big Daytona jack, the flat part here, because the scissor jack actually has like some notches that would go up in here. I think that's a pretty robust spot. See, I don't want to hit the plastic. And I've chocked the driver's rear wheel, which is diagonally opposite of this, again, just to keep the vehicle from ever rolling. And I'm not on a curved area that might slip off, so I think we're good. Again, I don't want to go any higher than I need to. No need to get it way up in the air. One more important thing before I'm fully done. I'll make sure I put the pressure at the proper air pressure all the way around. A little warmer here in the garage than it is outside, so I'll adjust it a little higher by 2 or 3 psi on each tire to account for maybe about a 20 to 30 degree change in temperature. Here in Michigan, we're about 750 some feet above sea level. We're about 1 psi of air pressure per 10 degrees Fahrenheit change. If I'm accounting for about a 20 degree drop once we get outside, or a 30 degree drop, I want to make sure that these air pressures about 2 to 3 psi higher than the recommended values, which are usually on a placard on the side of the car. We'll make sure we get those set. Again, after this has been driven for probably a couple dozen miles, I'm going to make sure I retorque all of the lug nuts, make sure they're at the right spec. Time to put the rubber mats in too. Michigan winter's here. Thanks for watching. I'm Jim with the Works RL channel. It's really great to have you here. Leave your comments down below. We'll chew the fat a little bit, grab a frosty beverage. We'll catch you at the next video. Thanks for watching.